Cottonwood Boy, High Plains, 1851. On a sturdy branch of the old cottonwood, too high for any beast to reach, hung a fine cradle board. An elaborately quilled morning star design revealed its northern Cheyenne origins. Almost completely concealed by the thick leaves, a small, black-capped head peered out. Raised from birth not to emit even the least sound when danger was assessed, the infant was occupied with watching a large, glossy black bird that had landed on a nearby branch. All was quiet in this narrow defile where the morning's mist was just beginning to lift. A piercing ray from the sun highlighted the brightly beaded snake amulet that contained the child's birth cord. This is what had attracted the crow's attention. The baby boy solemnly watched the bird hopping approach with fascination, that is, until it began to tug on the amulet's cord. At that, the child's dark eyes glistened with fearsome awe. Not a bird called. The little gully lined with golden aspen and cottonwood trees was tensely still. Even the leaves appeared stunned into grim silence in the early morning cold. The only sound now came from the trill of a creek as a small band of horsemen cautiously approached, for this was the scene of a recent massacre. A cook fire still smoldered. There was the unmistakable coppery smell of blood. Unavoidable clatter of the war party mounts' hooves as they carefully picked a way through the destruction alerted the crow, who glided off, abandoning the glittering object dangling from the cradle board. "Kanji, crow!" White Ferret, the lead warrior, signaled to the others to halt, bowstrings now drawn, for something untoward had drawn the keen eyes of their leader, ever on the alert, especially now, for the smallest sign of life. Dispirited all, for their raid had been unsuccessful, not only did he who leans lie sprawled across the back of his horse, but two others were still missing, and they were returning with no new ponies for their herd. If it had not been for the anxious eyes of White Ferret, the child would not have been spotted. Many stories were to elaborate on the significance of White Ferret's simple warning, kanji. But truly it was the glitter of the hovering tears in a hungry infant's eyes as he saw his kind again approaching. Glitter! As strong arms reached up for the little Cottonwood Boy, for that is what they named him, Wagachun, for the noise the leaves make as they twist and turn on their pedestal, he let out a mighty wail. Brought back to their encampment to be raised among the Tsitsistas, the beautiful people as the northern Cheyenne were known, his origins were not quite a mystery, but much of his birth circumstances would never be known, as none of the small band in that defile where he had been found had lived through what must have been a surprise attack on their small encampment. He had been thrust high up in the tree as a desperate act of love and hope for his survival. A gruel pipe bag was found tucked in with him, along with that little amulet that contained his birth cord, in a cleverly stitched doeskin bag, clean and carefully folded, was a small white square of material, too small to be worn around one's neck and too thin to serve some other purpose. It had been elaborately embroidered with what was thought to be a letter sign of the Vallejo's possession. Much about his origins were to remain a mystery, but he was considered blessed by his adoptive tribe. Long before he reached the age to quest for a vision, he had developed a special affinity for the Kangi, the Crow people and all their relations, especially the lovely magpies, which, of course, were never far from the Cottonwoods. He loved to imitate their grating calls, which to him were pleasing. He was often found in rapt attendance to their chattering discourse, seated by the banks of the creeks where the cottonwoods grew, content in their company for hours on end, eschewing the company of children his own age.